Hello and welcome to Political Capital. This is the intersection of money and politics. My name is Karabole Tlatla. This week, bankers from South Africa's biggest banks by market cap lined up to give testimony of their torment following their decision to close Gupta-related entities' bank accounts. Here is a bit of background in their own words.
Four of South Africa's biggest banks came to vent their anguish following the closure of Gupta company accounts. In April 2016, one of the biggest banks in South Africa, Absa, was the first to close the connected families' accounts, and it snowballed from there, as the three other banks also followed suit. For the better part of this week, bankers lined up to detail similar stories of how, following the closure of the Gupta company's accounts, South Africa's ruling party, the ANC, and its ministers in government went into overdrive. The banks were accused of colluding against black business and had to fend off veiled threats about banking licenses from politicians. They were all summoned to the ruling party's headquarters and interministerial committee.
Our own internal processes as regards the reporting of suspicious transactions to the Financial Intelligence Center were ongoing, and so we would ask our money laundering reporting officer to make an input as to say, we are reconsidering our relationship with these people based on this public information. Do you have private information based upon what you've seen going through the accounts that should give us cause for concern? And he most definitely told us that was the case. He couldn't, in terms of our policy and process, tell us what he had seen and what occurred, but he was able to say you ought to be exercise extreme caution in continuing to deal with these entities. We banked a company by the name of Estina. Estina was a company which was awarded a contract in the Free State Province to develop a farm, and there was wide publicity around how the farm itself had not been developed, but substantial sums of money being paid to our client Estina. When we investigated, we found that large proportions of that money were in fact sent to Dubai rather than being spent in South Africa on the farm. That caused, obviously, was suspicious on our part. After a company by the name of Tegeta had concluded the agreement to acquire control of Optimum Coal Mine, we received an email from Oak-based laying claim to about 1.45 billion rands worth of funds that we held for a trust that had been established for the rehabilitation of the mine. We regarded that as suspicious. As a matter of law, these trusts, once set up for mine rehabilitation, are obliged to be ring-fenced in the process. The funds in the trust may be used for no purpose other than rehabilitation of the mine. Yet Oak Bay had asked us to transfer the funds to Bank of Baroda.
Yes. Who called that meeting?
My understanding, it was a request from the Secretary General of the ANC, Mr. Mantashe, made to Mr. Sim Chabalala, who is the Chief Executive of Standard Bank.
And then ANC was represented by who?
ANC was represented by Mr. Mantashe, Ms. Jessie Duarte, and Mr. Enoch Ngodongwana. The meeting then did go on to talk about the issue of the close of the Gupta accounts. We were asked to comment on the perception that we were part of white monopoly capital oppressing black business. We were asked to comment on the reports that we were taking instructions from people in Stellenbosch in closing these accounts. And we obviously rejected those out of hand. I must say it's the first time I've seen my boss, Sim Chabalala, get really angry. And we can't do anything that is contrary to the law here and exposes us to international sanctions.
I received a phone call from Mr. Enoch Ngodongwana, the head of the then economic cluster of the ANC, to attend a meeting with the Secretary General of the ANC in the Thule House. When I received, I must say, an unexpected call. I requested that Mr. Ngodongwana confirm that the meeting was still on. He came back to me and said the meeting was off. In my 32 years in banking, this is the first time ever I've received requests from a political party or an interministerial committee to to want to discuss banker-client relationships. So I think that that to me was the unexpected. I really didn't expect for any third party to want to question that relationship between bank and client. Secretary of the IMC, Ms. Kellerman, sent me the invite to attend a meeting. I got the request on the 22nd of April for a meeting to be held on the 25th of April. Again, I'm saying thanks for her email. We had anticipated that we would be given the requested information in order to allow us to meaningfully prepare for the meeting with the IMC. In light of the fact that we do not have the clarity and given current unavailability, we respectfully at this time decline the invitation for the meeting on the 25th of April 2016. I think the mere fact that recommendations by the Minister of Mineral Resources into the operating of financial institutions is a worrying statement to be made by Minister Zwane.
The review committee was of the view that the Oak Bay companies were not using ABSA as their primary or dual bank and were apparently moving their banking accounts elsewhere to other financial institutions. As a consequence, ABSA was limited in its ability to appropriately monitor and understand the transactional activity in those accounts. There was also evidence of large unexplained transfers of funds between the Oak Bay companies and related parties at other banks. For the record, the persons present at that meeting were members of the ANC NEC, being Mr. Gwede Mantashe, the Secretary General, Mr. Enoch Gondongwana, Ms. Jessie Duarte, and Mr. Krish Naidu, who I believe attended as a legal representative at that time.
And who invited you to this meeting?
The previous day, the 19th of April, I am informed that our CEO attended a meeting of BLSA, that's Business Leadership South Africa. At that meeting, she was approached by Mr. Gwede Mantashe to come to the meeting the next day. The meeting was opened by the Secretary General of the ANC, Mr. Mantashe, who indicated that the meeting was not to discuss client and customer information, predominantly because our CEO started the meeting by making it explicitly clear that should the meeting involve discussing client confidential information, we would not be able to partake in it. In fact, to use her words directly, she said it would be a very short meeting. We received an invitation on the 22nd of April, 2016, from Ms. Advocate Zarina Kellerman, who from her signature in the email stated that she was the advisor to the Minister of Mineral Resources and acting secretary of the IMC to attend a meeting on Monday, the 25th of April. ABSA respectfully declined the invitation to the meeting as we did not feel that we understood the nature of the meeting and we did not feel that our questions were adequately responded to.
Minister Zwane commented that he found it surprising that other banks had refused to attend the IMC meeting with government, considering that banks receive their licenses from government.
What did you take that to mean?
I also found it to be a very strange statement. I think it felt like a form of a threat. It is also a technically inaccurate statement because banks do not receive their licenses from government. They receive their licenses from the Reserve Bank, which is constitutionally an independent. So I certainly left the meeting with the impression that a good outcome for the IMC would have been for Nedbank to agree to take over the transactional facilities of the Gupta family. I would say that what caused me to believe that there was being pressure placed on the bank would have been a combination of the references to the licensing regime and beneath that the the subtext around, be careful, things could happen to your license if you don't behave in a particular way. And secondly, the closure of the meeting, which effectively was a request for Nedbank to become the primary transactional bankers for the Gupta companies, given that other banks had terminated.
But Wednesday also saw the only witness to have given testimony by video, Daniel Kaufman, President and CEO of Natural Resource Governance Institute. The man has been studying the changing nature of corruption around the world and advising the world's governments on how to deal with it. His studies found a pattern of the damage caused by corruption and state capture. This time, he was under oath.
What we show in our research is the longer term, medium and longer term impact. But nowadays, particularly when a country goes downhill in terms of corruption and state capture, the impact is not in the long term. The income can be very, very large, and it can be in the short term, and it's not only about general well-being objectives, it's also about the basic macroeconomic financial indicators. Budget deficits go up, financial crises ensue, and the rate of growth of GDP comes to a halt very quickly.
And those characteristics mirror what South Africa's economy is going through, begging the question, is the Gupta network responsible for the current recession we are going through, and how long will the effect linger?
So today we are posing that very question to one of the authors of Betrayal of the Promise, How South Africa is Being Stolen. Mr. Lumkile Mondi is an economics lecturer at the University of Witwatersrand, and he joins me now. Sir, I thank you for your time as always. I will begin at the top. Are the Guptas responsible for the country's current economic woes? Are they responsible for a recession?
The African National Congress, who have been in power for at least 24 years, are responsible for the economic meltdown that we've seen. It is their policies that have led to what we see today.
Is it their policy or their open door to what's letting others come and loot the public purse, as it were?
Well, in fact, it's a combination of things. Remember, the economic literacy is very, very low. The administration and management skills are very poor. More importantly, they lack power than management, and therefore they'll be open to people that are smarter, who can offer them some few cents, which they'll take, as we've seen some of them being implicated in the bank's inquiry that's going on at the moment in the Zondo Commission.
Mr. Mondi, you and I heard the bankers line up say that they have not only rules that govern in the South African context, but in the world context. And the reason why they cut their relationship with the Guptas was from a reputational point of view and the fact that it could attract international sanctions. Do you think the ANC appreciates this global network of the financial system, that one can trigger the other and the other and the other?
Well, in fact, that's the challenge around economic literacy. That, you know, the fact that quite a number of them are more political than economic, and specifically looking after the interests of the broader South African people than individuals or the party. In that regard, they will not be aware. What's important for them is that we're in power, and when in power, if you need to break the rules or repurpose the state, we'll do it, as we've seen under Zuma regime.
We've heard a lot that the state capture, that about 100 billion rands might have left the country, but surely that is a bigger price to state capture. The economy is paying the bigger price of that investor apprehension and that investor doubt that it has about our country. How long do you expect this low growth trap to last for?
Well, a low growth trap is going to be with us for many, many, many years. Remember, it has hit us not only in terms of the opportunity cost of the money that's gone out. More importantly, is the impact and the lack of delivery across many areas, whether it's the education sector, which is collapsing, the health sector, but critically, the fact that, you know, in 24 years, we haven't been able to have institutions that can make a huge difference in the masses of our people. So at local level, we've got CFO, we've got people that are supposed to manage billions of rands. They've got no qualification whatsoever. And they all come to the ANC. So there has to be much a lot of introspection in the ANC about who are these people that they put into constitutional state who are not capable to implement the requirements of a constitutional order.
Now, we've seen the ballooning, if you will, of South Africa's debt. I mean, from 2009 to 2002 to 2010, exposure almost doubled from 63 to 130 billion rands. All of this rot is centered around state-owned entities. So I'm going to ask the question, when do we start talking about the P word? When do we privatize, at least partially, to reduce our exposure as a country?
Well, in fact, that really is on the table. It is on the table to an extent that with an election coming. So I think what President Ramaphosa and some of his economically knowledgeable people in the ANC are going to buy time. After elections, then start doing it. I think at the moment, given what the statement they're pushing at the COSATU Congress recently, and the whole alliance trying to get together and ensure a total victory in the next election, they will postpone that. But I think some of those institutions, we need to take our losses and say, you know what, we don't need South African Airways. Why should the state be there? And so on and so on and so forth.
But you look at the ANC, tomorrow, apparently, the president will be unveiling the stimulus package. How much confidence do you have? Because ultimately we have to mirror this ANC that has no appreciation for economics and the ANC that will be standing up tomorrow supporting the president in his economic stimulus plan. So which one is the real ANC, and do you believe the
stimulus plan? We know the real ANC. We know the real ANC, so there's no debate about it. The real ANC is a party that puts on the table amazing policies but can't deliver. They've done it a number of times, whether it's a 10-point plan, is a 9-point plan, is the new growth path. They've failed dismally, so that we know. So anyone who really believes that the ANC can present a program that will change the lives of the masses of our people. You live in Kukuland. This is the ANC that is very, very thin on skills and capability. So in that regard, we need everyone. So we need to go beyond the race card, as well as realizing that
the populism card,
and realize that actually we can use a number of the white skill that we have in the country that lies in everywhere in the country that would like to contribute because it's their country, but because we believe so much in blackness that now it's our time, you benefited apartheid, now it's our time, those notions. We need to go beyond that to look at capability, because we need more people to come in and help us come out of this mess that the ANC puts us under.
Mr. Mondi, I'm going to conclude by bringing us back to state capture. Now, when I look at it, when I heard some of the bankers that lined up there, I mean, common names are coming up: Gwede Mantashe, Jesse Duarte, and Enoch Godongwana. Does the ANC owe us a response with regards to their treatment of all of these bankers and looking like they're doing the bidding of the Gupta family?
Very much. This is a party that is rooted in the masses of our people. So we go in the rural areas everywhere in our country. And yet this party has forgotten about these people who are marginalized, who haven't seen any political dividend of 1994. The ANC goes out to protect one family. And it's really mind-boggling as to how this movement can forget about unemployment, about poverty, inequality, and be so preoccupied, because the debate that they're supposed to be having with the banks is about how do banks help us invest in the country, create capability, and create opportunities, run a bank account of one family. So it shows exactly the point I've been making this evening. That is the point of lack of economic know-how, and therefore basically selling short our people and really perpetuating poverty, inequality, and marginalization of African people.
Are you worried about the rand, and are you worried about the petrol price?
I'm worried about the currency. The petrol price has to rise. Remember, we're net import, we're net importers.
And they're talking that it could reach $100 per barrel before the end of the year. What does that mean for this faltering rand?
Well, but what basically it means is that we may have the rand weakening, going back to the levels that we've seen before. Against the pound, but more importantly,
levels that we've seen before.
Yes.
But this is what we were promised when Ramaphosa came into power. Well, we sold a lemon when the economy is supposed to pick up, when things are supposed to be better.
Well, in fact, if you have not learned in 24 years, you'll never learn. In 24 years, we know very, very well that we've got amazing constitution. We used to have amazing institutions that we built from 94.
That we followed out.
The ANC completely, he built them and destroyed them. So where we are today, you are dreaming when you think the ANC can rebuild this country and deliver to the masses of our people.
Mr. Mondi, as always, I thank you. That's Lumkile Mondi, who is an economics lecturer at the University of the Witwatersrand. Now, after the break, we discuss the dope judgment by the Constitutional Court and see how far South Africa is from turning marijuana into an industry. We'll be back in a bit.